to our next fun issue. So here's Alex Wagner. Segue. Good job, Lacey. Nice segue. Alex Wagner talking about scandal in the courts. Here we go.
49% of Americans say they have trust and confidence in the United States Supreme Court. When Bill Clinton was president, that number was 80%. The absolute nosedive in American confidence in this court, pulled this year in September, followed reports that Justices Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito had routinely received lavish gifts and vacations from billionaire conservative activists, and came at a time when the court itself ended federal protection for reproductive choice, ended the practice of race-conscious admissions decisions, and all but sanctioned discrimination against same-sex couples. This term, the court will make even more landmark decisions, including potentially whether to impose further restrictions on abortion access and whether the federal criminal case against Donald Trump can proceed. Joining me now is Mark Joseph Stern, senior writer covering the courts and the law.
All right, before we jump into Mark here. Yeah, man. The Roe v. Wade decision. Okay, let's go to this. Alito and Clarence Thomas, who's my favorite. I actually saw him speak live at University of Portland. Yeah. And I walked out of there, I wanted to puke. Because half of his speech was about how voting rights were not inherent. Not everybody should have the right to vote. That was like half his speech. On top of that fact, the Roe v. Wade decision, right, back in the 70s.
Oh, yeah.
Well, wait. So it was back in the 70s. It gave women the right to choose up until whatever it was, 24 weeks into pregnancy.
Yes. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. But anyway, and then it was beyond that. It was like, okay, if it was life or death, then it was up to the doctor. Right? You know, not where I'd have gone, but I think a very reasonable, practical decision on how to deal with that issue.
Right.
Now, they rescinded that under Dobbs, under the Dobbs hearing. You know what's fascinating about the Dobbs hearing on abortion? Roe v. Wade was never mentioned. Wasn't even a part of the Dobbs hearing. Alito added that. And then somebody mysteriously leaked that information, which put pressure on Kavanaugh and Comey Barrett to withhold it. So now Roe is gone. So now you can make abortion illegal, which they have in a lot of states. And we've covered this.
I was going to say, that happened. Yeah, we've talked quite a bit about this.
And we've covered this a lot of times. And there's thousands and thousands of women who are suffering horrible medical situations, dying, trying to find abortions, are going to be remanded to poverty or having to give their kids up to to adoption. Just horrific outcomes. And they don't fucking give a shit. On top of that fact, it's like not just the corruption, but it's like, what the fuck is going on where the Supreme Court, the 9 people in this country that are supposed to be the ones that are unbiased above it all, and they're taking fucking bribes from conservatives in the tone of millions of dollars, and vacations and houses, and what was it? One billionaire paid for Clarence Thomas's, adopted son to go to fucking private school, or grandson, whatever. I mean, just millions of dollars. I mean, it's so corrupt. So fucking corrupt. It's amazing to me. But let's listen to Mark here.
Slate Magazine. Mark, thank you for joining me. First, let me get your reaction to this New York Times reporting and what stood out to you as a court watcher as most egregious.
Yeah, we expect slog rolling, horse trading, and deal making from politicians in the Senate cloakroom. But what we saw from the Supreme Court justices while deliberating this decision was something else entirely. This looked a lot like raw, cynical, partisan politicking of the basest sort. It was incredibly dishonest. The court concealed its vote on this case from the public, as Adam pointed out moments ago. That is almost unprecedented and suggests that this court did not trust the public to learn the truth about its decision-making process because it had been so corrupted. I think that's one of many details that jumped out as indications that, this court is cloaked in scandal, is cloaked in distrust of the public, and is aggressively trying to change the law with a lot of arrogance and a very little caution toward how the public is going to receive it.
Yeah, the arrogance.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. And that's where it comes back to the whole thing we were just talking about with Trump. I mean, it's the whole, like you said, do you have any faith that they're going to do the right thing?
No, none. In fact, I just assume that they're just going to do what the party that associates with their ideological leaning wants.
Well,
I just assume that's going to happen.
Well, yeah. Where they're getting their bribes from.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a disgusting thing. I mean, it's amazing to me, but we could watch the rest of this report and you guys should. I think we can kind of bypass it, but that's kind of the point. Is the corruption is so rampant. And the Supreme Court, I mean, these are supposed to be the guys and the girls that are above the fray. This is the third house, right? And, they're the third estate, and they just, half of them are taking money. More than half. And they're aligned with all these corrupt individuals. I mean, it's I don't know what else to say. I mean, it's like I said.
There's nothing more to say other than that. Yeah, only 49% of the people have confidence in you, and the rest of them probably think you're a joke. Those numbers are pretty sick.
Or worse than that, yeah. It's never been that low. Not since we've been scoring it. It's never been that low. John Roberts is going to go down in history as a fucking joke. And so is Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito. They're just going to go down as a humiliation. A black fucking stain on this country. I mean, that's what they are. That's what they're going to be. On top of that fact, I just want to go back for 1 second. I mean, right now, I mean, you're talking about Trump's talking about he wants to be a dictator. And he's using Nazi rhetoric in his speeches. And the argument is, is he unqualified because he incited an insurrection, or he's giving aid and comfort to insurrectionists? Right? The only argument they can make, because he is, that's an easy case to make. The only argument they can make is, well, the 14th Amendment doesn't really apply to the president. It applies to everybody else, just not the president. And it's like, okay, so wait a minute. So when we fought the Revolutionary War against the King of England, to say there are no kings, we rule ourselves. And now you're saying, well, wait, but the president is like a king. The law doesn't apply. He's like Elizabeth I when she used to say all the time, the law doesn't apply to princes. Fuck you.
That's terrifying.
Fuck you. The law applies to everybody, or it's not the law. The law is either right and good and just, or it fucking isn't the law. And in which case, I say, let's do mass revolution.
Yeah.
Sorry to say it, but I'm going to say it.
Viva la revolution.
Viva! Viva! Yeah, Robespierre was a horrible guy, but, you know. Well, I mean, like Mao Zedong, horrible guy, but the longer I go through life, I'm kind of like, yeah, maybe we should take all the, you know, the wealthy royal kids and stick them on farms and let them be abused for a couple of years. So they can get a fucking sense of what it's like.
You're like, why does that idea somehow seem less bad now?
I know it's a horrible idea, but you're like,
but maybe
it kind of starts making some sense. Yeah. All right, well, let's do something more fun. Lauren Boebert, the Boberduke. Oh yeah.